Okay.
Well, and it's like, why am I, speaking of limits, it's like, okay, why am I excusing my physical activity because of my age, or adjusting my physical activity because of my age?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to do that.
Well, yeah. And I honestly, I don't. So that's what
I don't, but then I feel like certain things, like climbing around, hanging mini blinds and stuff, and, doing things, with the drill over my head and stuff. It's like, holy shit. My arms are like, what's this? And it's like, I shouldn't, why am I creating that? Why am I creating any resistance?
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing is it's the intention isn't purely set. That sounds like judgment.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because last night I was talking to Jen on the phone for a little while more because we were talking about something that was going on with someone. And I was telling her how, so Friday night, we did share, and I was texting you about that, about how the time thing, right? So time thing was front and center again. So this is the third week now. I mean, it's so big. It's going to keep on coming up until we cover it all, I guess. Right. So, and it was all about that, going back to what we did 2 weeks ago on the using time as a tool, being able, but it was much bigger than that. And so it was really a very different share. It was very intense. Like, if it was great intense, it was really intense.
Right.
And that's why we felt like, it's funny because Colby said, I think that's why we have such a small group, because it just needed to be us, a small representative to really like hit into the intensity, to allow it to disperse for everybody, whatever. So, so I still don't have a conscious way to describe what I saw and experienced, but it has been a continual experience all weekend, right? It's never stopped.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like that's why I'm so like, and there's no judgment in all these questions right now. It's just the questions are there, right? Like, so something big changed, and it's such a big change that it's like, so now what, right? But it was
well, it's like shifting gravity. Okay, well then now how do I behave?
Right. And it's interesting because, what has come to me through all that is, that we use time as a currency. Like, we use time like we use a currency.
Right.
Like we use it to create value, and we don't even realize that's what we do. Right.
Well, and time is money, and
money, and how busy are you, and like, the connection of value to how busy you are, right, quote unquote. And
and you're paid by the hour.
Yeah.
You're paid weekly, you're paid monthly, you're paid in increments of time.
Right.
And paid time off.
Yep.
I mean,
and we don't even realize, we think of currency, but then we forget that. I mean, well, let me, I don't want to take up your time. I don't want to, because it's like that implication of, well, it's so valuable, but it's really just a tool. Right.
Right.
And so it's funny as we were talking about that,
and
go ahead.
I mean, it's such a limiting, it's a limiter and a expander.
Yeah. Yep.
Here, I'll give you more time to get that done.
Yep. And so that sort of hit me between the eyes when we were talking about that. But then it was interesting because when we went out there, this was the really interesting and very different kind of experience. Now, we always have beings from other parts of the multiverse come in for these shares, right? But it was a preponderance of all of these different beings that they sort of were like, oh, yeah, okay, well, while we're looking at this, well, for us to really unify and come back together as one is to really allow all of those tools to meld back together, right? And like, now this isn't exactly the words because I just understood what it meant, right? But this is like what it feels like. And then it was like, okay, so when we were out there, what I saw was like all of these cards in a card deck, and they were all shuffled together to come back together. And that is what has felt like this universe moving shift that I have felt that I have no description for. Right. So that was one thing. Then what, it just continued on, and I woke up Saturday morning with all of these understandings of, so when we look at each other, okay, so we have all these different levels of separation, right? So when we look at each other outside of incarnation, right? When we look at like our avatars, our souls, right? Like the whole entire soul represent, because that's another separation itself, but it's another level of individuality as well, right?
Right.
So when we are looking at each other outside of the confines of the tools that we've created in each, whatever place where we incarnate and create physicality and all that kind of stuff, it does not change the reality that, for example, I realized Saturday morning that all those beings that when I was interchanging with them, they saw me as my whole soul. There was no time.
Right.
No Angela.
Right.
There was just,
right.
And when you do that, then there is no time, because there's no lifetimes. There's no timelines that cause these different separations and identities, right? There's no, there's no separation in twin flames and other facets of the individual soul. It is simply the soul, right? Because that's what I would felt like the recognition was at that soul level of discussion. And then it was like, oh my God, that's so huge, right? Look at how much that erases in one move.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that has felt so huge. And even talking about it, I feel like, wow, all this stuff in my, heart area. Right. And,
oh yeah. Well, as you were talking, I was sitting there going, okay, so these beings are from all these other places. And so I immediately had this vision of space. And it's like, if you talk about the way we refer to that is light years away. Well, that's still a time reference.
Right. Absolutely.
It's still a time reference. So you pull that out and it literally collapses.
Right. Well, because
the universe.
Out there's nobody's from any place else, by the way, when we take out the time.
Exactly.
Because we've not
exactly. And it's all right here, right now.
Yeah.
Now. All there is now.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. So yeah, then the next question is like, so what do you do with that? I don't know. Did you bring this?
Right.
No, thanks.
Right, and then when you look at it, if you look at that, and then you look at what we were talking about earlier about, me griping about my weight, my physical activity. I mean, that is such a molecule in all of the now.
And so irrelevant, right?
and so irrelevant. Just exactly what I was going to say. It's like, big deal. So what?
I know. So it's, and any physical complaint we have, because here's the thing. This presentation of who I am right now is perfect for whatever set of lessons, right, that I chose for this particular piece and part of the experience. But when we look at, okay, so now here I am communing and interacting with other souls, right, at the soul level, where none of that exists.
Right.
Or it exists and it's in its completion, so there's no need to see that facet anymore. Right? So, it's so interesting because it goes into this space of, and it, like I said, there's really no words to describe this understanding, because this is a little tiny effort of it, but it's beyond this comprehension of remembrance to a place of saying, because by the way, out there, the beings, even though they're, I say like, oh, for explanatory services, beings that are non-incarnate from other, in other parts of the multiverse, but we are all incarnate in all those different places too, right?
Right.
And it's that recognition of, okay, so, or we want to look at that part of the soul. It's just so many cross references when we try to separate. It's like,
right.
Okay, so all of that tiny stuff, it's all like, okay, let's push that aside. And that's the reality, is beyond any, because we have no and it keeps on hitting me in the face. So I know that's going to hit me like whatever that clarity is supposed to be. But I know that taking that away, remember when we first talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and we started talking about taking it away, and we were like, oh, no. The ego's like, no.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Right. But
yeah,
in essence, we've had to take these steps to get to this place of even the concept of existing in a space that's free of time.
Yeah. Something occurred to me yesterday, and I haven't quite figured out how it fits with this, but it just keeps ruminating around in my head. And, I don't know why this visual occurred to me, but when I was growing up and went to church, in the entrance of the church, there was this table, and on the table, it said, "In remembrance." And I know it's, communion and all that is do this in remembrance of me and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's all just remembering. And that's what even religion is saying, but saying that, perverting it. Organized religion.
That is the truth. Yeah.
But I just keep hitting against that. This is just remembering.
Right.
So if you look at this from that perspective of just remembering, am I hearing that to take away that there's nothing to do but remember?
Well,
because we keep getting the be and the do and the well, how do you just be?
Right.
How do you do being?
Dooby doo. Yeah.
So how do you do timeless?
Right.
How do you remember timeless? And what is the word for timeless?
Yeah. Well, I don't have a word for it yet. So, and it's funny because that's what I hear over and over again are people like, I just can't get a grip on time. Well, it was like even this morning, like I was sitting here and I literally sat down at my desk and it was 8:30 and I was like, oh yeah, plenty of time, blah, blah, blah. I've got to do this. And I was actually really productive. And all of a sudden it was like I blinked and then I just happened to look at the computer thing. I was like, oh my God, it's 9:00. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, hold on, crap. I got to go do this before we start. And literally that's how like every day is like for me. I have to constantly, if I have something on my schedule, I have to look at the calendar constantly or the computer constantly make sure I'm like, focused in on where I am in the timeline, that in and out of it. But, yeah, and I'm not sure. So there's that. So that's one thing. So let's put that on the shelf because there's a lot of other things to talk about. I mean, I don't know about you. This whole past week has been huge. It's like blah, 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 one epiphany and one thing after.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I think that whole spiral thing last week set off a whole bunch of stuff. So the other thing that, well, there's so many things. I don't even know where to hit on. The other thing that's been on my mind, oh, there's a yawn. You know what that means. Has to do with, again, okay, we're coming back to this for the 50th time or so, the Odessa and Montauk Project stuff, right? And Illuminati and conspiracy and blah, blah, blah. And it's so funny because I honestly pay no attention to this stuff. And it's like everybody keeps on coming to me and talking to me about it. And it's like, wow. So what is it like? What's the bing, bing, bing? Because it's a ping, over and over again. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure where to go on that. Like I still like, and that's what I was talking to Jen and I were talking about that last night. And I'm like, there's so much. Now, first of all, by the way, so many people connect to it in the way of because we're so addicted to the drama, right? So let's create some more drama.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying that with any
I just unsubscribed to drama a couple of days ago. I was like, I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah. Well,
you can choose to have it, and I don't I choose not to participate in it on
Yeah.
any level.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I did that a long time ago myself. And yet it's interesting because it keeps on coming up and people keep on talking to me about it. And, you know, the words like, it keeps on pressing on me. And I keep on saying, so what? Because it's right there, I'm sure, right in front of my face, right? That I'm supposed to look at, since it's been 2 years now off and on that it comes up to me, right? And I'm like, okay, so it's obviously right in front of my face. And I have yet to see what it is that is important for me to look at. Whatever nugget, or is that yawn again?
Well,
nugget it is for me to take away, I just am not perceiving it yet. So Jen had
big yawn.
Yeah. So Jen had a suggestion. I brought this up to her last night and she said, and I said, oh, I never thought of it that way before either. That's a possibility too. She goes, maybe it's incorporating with when we work with people. It doesn't always have to be just the students, right? But and I said, because my first response was, well, it's built into the clearings for the class, right? But she's like, maybe it's something of working with people to help them free themselves from, you know, implants and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. I felt like I got past that like years ago. But there was something about what she said that really, it did ping me a little bit. And I was like, okay, so there's something to explore here. So I said, well, I'm going to put that on the shelf too. About, I don't know, existing implants, existing limitations that we hold on to and allow, right? Because this one person we were having a discussion about, like, and actually it's not just one person, because there's a number of people that I know that are doing this. And it's like, literally, I understand that we are divine. This is like in conversation, this is what they say. I understand that we're divine and we're infinite. And I understand that this is my choice and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, you hang up and I get 50 texts or emails or PMs going, well, you know, I have this voice in my head and I have this, and I feel like these people are trying to like force their will on me. And I have, you know, it's that drama that comes back. Right.
Right.
And it's funny because when you talk to them live, it's like, oh no, I totally get it. And maybe it's just being in the same vibration together. They can see it in those moments. But then when we hang up, it's like they lose it.
Right.
And then they go back to this, like, oh, I can't do this. Can you help me with this? You know, can you help me about this? And it's like, wait a second, did we not just have this conversation about, you know, that you have all this power and that you even accepted that? And then we hung up, and then what happened? So, oh, interesting talking about that. So what I'm seeing is that, like, yeah, holding that space when we interact, whether we're talking or in person or on the phone or whatever, is where they can see clearly, but then they allow themselves to fall back into the filter of lack and disempowerment when they're not in that space anymore. So they're not holding that space for themselves, obviously.
It's almost like, you know, it's like if you, and this is left over from healing school, like if you remove something from the energy field, that you had to fill it with light, or else something else you had to fill it with love, rose light, or something else would move into that space. And it's like, well, okay, if you believe that, then that's what it is. So if you remove from like working with somebody, if you move them from a place, but don't erase that history almost, then they're drawn back to it.
Well, that's only because they do, right? Because there's no need to do
it's like the default.
Yeah.
It's like the default. It's like
because, you know, at the end of the day,
a natural resting place that doesn't take effort, doesn't take different thought.
Yeah. So what starts pulling me?
But it's all belief.
Yeah, it is. And you know, it actually is. Well, maybe that's what we do today. Oh, that's powerful. So what I'm getting pulled into is, so because there's no time, right? And the whole thing is like present. The whole experience is present. So the entire experience of Earth has been limitation and lack. It's sort of like an upside
and struggle and
right.
Right.
It's been an upside down world, which, we've talked about. I felt like it, so much. It's so interesting, the whole Stranger Things with the upside down dimension. And it's like, oh yeah, we're actually the upside down dimension. So,
right.
But
well, and if you think about the Bible, it's like it wasn't like that until, Eve ate from the tree of knowledge. Okay, and if you want to take it back to that fairy tale, it's like, okay, that's when separation came in. That's when me, not me came in.
Well, no, me, not me was much longer before. Well, yeah. Way before Earth ever came into existence, though. Earth is just a baby. Right. So,
right.
But what I'm being pulled to is Lemuria. We thought we were done with that. No chance. So, and the steps into separation and density and physical.
Just imagine if we could let go of that history, if we could let go of those tethers or anchors or agreements or whatever word you want to put on it.
Yeah,
there goes everything.
Whether it's like I'm seeing it like a lever, so like an implant with a switch, right? Because that's when, that's where all the stuff. So, all right, let's go back to the stuff that many of us have remembered, the reptilian stuff that we agreed to allow the separation and the experimentation, and which is why so many things like that, GMOs and whatever, really trigger us. And
GMOs, yep.
And, right. And all these conspiracy theories about the governments and the Illuminatis and, limiting people and whatever. It's like, well, that was the first experience where we felt, well, even though it was an agreement and we forgot it was an agreement, we felt like, holy shit, what the hell are we doing? Or what does this happen? And and we wanted to put blame on the first blame, right? Went to them. And
it was almost like that's the very first entry in history.
Yeah. In the Earth history. Yeah. And
that it's like PTSD.
Yeah.
You don't ever want to have that happen to you again.
Except it
was so bad.
And so we've created it a bajillion different ways to repeat that over and over and over again. Right? That's maybe the thing.
Oh, this is making me sick to my stomach.
Which means we're on the path to where we're supposed to go today.
That's right. Which is a good thing.
Right. So, there's something, I'm just keep on seeing a switch. It's like a lever. And that's all I can see. That's all I can feel it. It's something that was switched on. That was part of that implanting, whatever.
Oh, wow. It's almost like that pull back to that's in our DNA. It's like built in.
And that's default.
And exactly. That's exactly what I was just getting ready to say. That's the default. And that's why it's perceived as such a labor or such a undoing to let us go. Oh, that's heavy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's huge because I can hear this collective scream as we're even talking about it.
It's like the nails as you're being dragged into the black hole. No.
Well, then it goes back to that first period. After that, the first period of darkness, when we created all that, right? Yeah, like it's all.
Yeah.
Connected. Yep, there's your yawn.
Oh my gosh.
Because the darkness keeps on. So that was the other thing I was going to bring up is the darkness, and dealing with darkness is another big topic that's been coming up over the past week. And not only what I've discussed, I mean, I have talked about, yesterday in my session, which I haven't talked about in I don't know how long, the interactions I had with Lucifer back when.
Oh yeah.
And yeah. And in the beginning of doing this, and some of the perceptions that I had that have sort of sat on the shelf too. And all of this is related. Somehow it's all tied together, because I can feel this undercurrent, like this rumbling going on right now. And it's like,
well, it's like what I'm seeing is like there's a big log in the log jam, and the water's building up behind it, and it's starting to give way. And everything's like building, and the pressure behind it's getting intense.
And all we have to do is pull out this one. It's like playing pickup sticks. We got to pull out this one stick to make it all
right.
One log to let it flow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is like bigger than a bread box for sure.
Yeah, this is.
So, and is it, because this is all outside of time, because when we take the time component out, that's part of why we had to go through that first. Take the time component out, we can see the whole picture, right? So all of this, it's like, oh wait, didn't we do something in the past couple of weeks where I saw the ripple thing going on, where we were in the center of a it was like a ripple going out through the universe? One of us did, or both of us did, I don't know.
Yeah.
And after the share, and it's almost like this is a ripple through the entire set of dimensions here on Earth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost quivering inside at this point.
All right, I'm going to pause this because I have to go to the bathroom. Hold on. Oh, great.
Yeah, I'll do that too.
My wireless mouse, as always, has now. Oh, here we go. All right, put this on pause again, because this is all just such neat stuff. It's like all right. So yeah, we jump all over the place, but we always get to the point that we need to.
I know.
So what did you say? So it's like we have to.
We believe that we have to undo this to get out of it, to end it, to finish it, to complete it. Yeah. We have to change the DNA. We have to resolve all the resistances or whatever, when it's really all just an illusion anyway.
Right.
And maybe it's our belief in that doesn't let us let go of time, which is what holds it in place.
Well, and guess what? What's connected to time is the beginning and the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it allows time makes there a beginning and an end. Whereas if there is no time, it never began, so it doesn't have to end. Oh,
it just is.
Which, you know what that does? It instantly negates everything we've done here. And maybe that's where the fear comes in, is that all this has been for nothing. There were no lessons learned.
Except it's sort of concentric, right? So here's my ego that goes, wait a second now.
Well, and that's what do you mean this was for nothing? I suffered all this. I did all this. I worked this hard for nothing.
But, if you really look at it, it is concentric, right? So we created things concentrically in terms of like separation and hierarchy of consciousness and all that kind of stuff, right? But if you look at it from the point of view that every part of this is a play, right? So every part, and it's like it goes back to that movie Inception, right? The dream within a dream within a dream kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we have so many concentric like levels that we have like layered in, that it's not that nothing is relevant. It's that it's already all complete. Or something like
right. It's all relevant. It's all pertinent. It's because it's everything.
Right. But if we let go of the idea of time, then we feel like we're oh my God. Oh, excuse me. If we let go of the beginning and end, we look at, or that linearity in duality, right? Well, it's just a measurement tool. Then oh God, there's just so much just downloading. It's like I don't even have words for all this. It's like, oh yeah, well then I'm
I know. It's like I can see it stream by and I can feel it, but there's I don't think I can get it all into words.
No, because it's like we don't, all right, so I'm getting that we don't want to, oh goodness gracious, we don't want to eliminate the entire multiverse. We're evolving it, which puts a number of certain lessons to bed. So if we're going to continue in that trinity that we've been talking about of like, you know, duality and wholeness,
right,
together,
right.
Then it's just those the parts of the concentricities, you know, that are complete, just won't exist anymore. And that's what we need to flip the switch for, take the switch away for. Not quite sure. So, you know, going back to what we were talking about, then the discussions about the drama, the stories, the conspiracy, right, the victimhood, right? And what's the difference between being a victim as a woman or a transgender or whatever than being a victim under the Illuminati or the, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't, or the reptilian.
Right.
No difference.
It's all a difference in power.
And that's all been the experience. And maybe that's what we're putting to bed. Maybe that's what it's time to put to bed, is learning to.
Well, I mean, that makes sense, because how can you step into your power unless you give up the belief that there is anything other than all powerful?
And then the question I hear is, then what's the purpose of anything?
Right. It is. But that's accurate.
That's the I know. I don't know. There's something in there. It's like we've got to pull.
There's a lot in there.
It's like we've got to pull this tiny needle through this really big tapestry and find this one little spot, because that's going to pull it all together. So maybe that's what we focus on today, is just that. Just like that. Yeah, and so it's like, oh yeah, there's Pandora's box right there.
Oh, no kidding. Actually, what I feel like is we think that what we're looking at is Pandora's box, when actually we've been living in Pandora's box, and what we're looking at is the easy part.
Yeah, that's true. Well, because we've been addicted to it, right? Because we've been addicted to the chaos.
Oh, yeah. And the drama and the emotion and the, yeah. And the push and the pull and the attract and repel and the.
Look at how much there is about. Look at how much there is about unity and the fight against it. Really, this is the upside.
What'd you say?
I said, look at the fight against unity.
Unity. I thought you said nudity. I was like, when did that come in?
the fight against unity and all we have done to create an upside down version of that, right? Because think about all of the commercialism that we have that is like, oh, unity is bad. Oneness is bad because it takes away your individuality. And
right. Well, I mean, even if you look at silly things like Star Trek and the Borg and, you know, resistance is futile and, you know, the collective and the, you know, and about how the struggle against that.
Yeah. Well, and even in the Wrinkle in Time book that I just read, there's a depiction of that. And it's like, okay, we do love this separation-based universe.
We do. We do.
So what is it that's changing? Because I'm feeling like it's like I'm seeing this really big picture, but I'm not understanding what I'm seeing. Because it's sort of like, it's not like it's going away. It's evolving to something else, but I don't even have any context of how to even see what that is something else is.
Well, and that's where not everybody's, but that's where the resistance comes in, because it's like, well, if I only knew what it looked like, then I could be attracted to that.
Yeah.
So I could allow that, and I could then get behind the creation of that.
Yep.
Whereas if you have no idea, you're relying simply on trust. Well, we know how far that's gotten us.
Well, trust and filters of experience in the past, right?
Right. Which, you know, we say, well, we don't want to experience that initial fall into separation again. So let's struggle to keep us where we are.
I guess maybe that's part of it. Like, oh my God, we don't want to do that again.
Right. Right.
Oh yeah. I do remember, because there have been times when I have been there have been moments of such complete clarity and unity of the wholeness. That was just so amazing that it was like, well, God, why even put the energy forth to create a body? Because it's so much more love, right?
Right.
Interesting that we forget that so much in separation. Oh, of course, in different varying levels, depending on where we are. So, and I guess maybe I'm seeing all this because of that whole shuffling that happened on Friday night. And it's like all this stuff is coming together. I'm seeing this at this whole universal level. And I'm like, my mind cannot even comprehend it consciously. Like, I know it and I feel it, but I'm like,
right.
So, and at the same time, then, like we were saying before, and I don't know if we were saying this with the recording on or not, but it was like on how, oh no, it was when the recording was on, how it makes all of this little stuff that we're complaining about completely irrelevant, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And yet it is relevant, or else it wouldn't exist in the whole of the universe in some way.
Right. Right. Well, and okay, then that begs the question, then how do you ever feel the depth of the power you possess as this individual here?
Right.
Well, and maybe you can't until you accept that this is all an illusion.
Truly, 100%. And the funny thing is, you know,
right.
But then right now, like, what my mind goes to is, why forget to remember? Like, what's even the purpose? Oh, there was a big old like, blah.
What did you just say?
Why forget to remember? Why forget to remember?
Oh, right. Because without the forgetting, there was no separation.
Yeah, well, that would have to be part of it, obviously. Except there was the separation-based, there was unity-based separation and separation-based separation. No, unity-based creation, unity-based creation, and separation-based creation. So there's elements of unity-based creation where there's creation and you're still connected to the whole, but yet still have that separation of an individual, right?
Right.
And
which I feel like we can't even get to that level.
Maybe that's the part. So when we first came here, the memory that I had when we first created Lemuria, the memory that I had was that it was that way. Very much. We were very much connected. It was very much a paradise. And like whatever we created, the plants and the animals, I want to say not even the animals, the different forms, because we didn't designate that way, but it's like that all had a purpose in the individual, as well as a consciousness of a part of being the part of the whole, right?
It's almost like I can remember that from the perspective of it's the first time we created form how we wanted to create it, and then as an individual.
And the way we created the further separation, it's like we started in that unity-based separation creation, and then there was the jump to separation-based creation. That was what we considered painful.
Right.
And that's where we went upside down. That's where we went upside down. Because in unity-based creation, it was still very blissful and fun because it was constant creation.
Right.
And yet, like, look at the beauty of every single piece, and it's part of the whole, and such consciousness around it all, right?
Right.
You flip this,
and maybe that's what we're trying to back up too far, or in other words, evolve too far, too fast.
Maybe it is like looking at the smaller piece of maybe it is a matter of remembering the unity-based creation.
Right.
That feels far more comfortable.
It sure does. That's just exactly what I was thinking, is my ego likes that better.
We just threw it a little donut. Here.
Yeah.
Is that what's to do though for now? That's the question. And I'm getting there's more than that. So
well, it's like that's maybe that's the thread to pull to start something else unraveling. But are we unraveling, or are we tying together?
Well, it's almost like, yeah. I mean, well, like I said, I wasn't thinking of unraveling. I thought of it as tying together. I sort of felt like it was like this one whole will pull together the whole tapestry. So how about we just, honestly, maybe we're just overthinking it because the egos are, well, because I heard the collective scream of whatever, maybe, maybe it's just this, whatever that is, let's do it. Because it'll take us to the next step.
Yeah. Well, and it's whatever's necessary in all that we've discussed, whatever energy of this discussion.
Yeah.
Allow that.
And allow it to all, whatever it is, so that it all comes together, so that we can press forward, like take the next step, whatever, because that's what it feels like. All of these things that we're talking about that feel like they sound like they're disparate. They feel very connected, but we can't quite place how. It's like whatever it is that'll pull it all together, because it's like almost like that's what our next step is actually pulling it together to see that bigger hologram, because then it'll be clear. That's what it is. So we were thinking in too large a scale because we were just jumping like 5 steps ahead, but we can't do that yet.
Right.
We can't do that with the intention of ease. That's what I'm getting. Oh, but no, correct yourself. Can't do that with the
right.
Ease and flow and ease and flow. All right. Yeah, this feels huge in itself.
I know.
All right. You ready?
Let me write this down.
Yeah, I probably should. I haven't written anything down because we've been all over the place today.
At least we have it recorded this time.
Yes, that is true. All right. What are you writing?
Whatever ties all this together with ease and flow.
That's what I'm writing.
Yep. That's about as far as my ego will let me take it right now.
Yep. It's pretty much what I wrote. I was like, okay, is there any better way to word it? Nope. I'm going to pause this because I want to go to the bathroom again. Obviously, things are flowing already, so hold on a minute.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Yeah, because some of my best insight comes in the toilet.
Right.
So what I, of course, saw was, and when you tie this together, I mean, we're actually doing this in the way that is the most productive and effective, because when we tie this together at the multiversal level, then every inside concentricity, like all the smaller pieces, will become clear as well, like all the way down to our physical bodies.
Oh, right.
So there we have
it. Yeah.
Top efficiency. And that ties back into, did we talk about last week the percentage of consciousness? Did we talk about that on this thing, or was that just in the instructor discussion? Oh no, it was, because that was a spiral of consciousness we talked about last week.
Oh yeah, that was last week. Yeah.
So this
allow the remembrance and observation of the tool of time within the spiral of remembrance.
Yeah, and
from a place of wholeness,
and allowing that higher percentages of consciousness while still allowing separation. That's why we're having this today. That all connects in, because of course we're upping the ante, and that's what I've been focusing on that for the past week, ever since last.
What was that last bit? Allow the higher what?
The higher percentage of the embodiment of divine consciousness. Remember we talked about that? It's like yeah. So the more we allow ourselves access and embodiment of that, the more we actually can access it. And, so it's almost like, we've jumped a number of percentage points, even just in doing this last week, to a place of seeing this bigger picture so that we can do this more easily. Oh, that makes so much sense. All right, let's tie that all together. All that with a neat little bow.
Yeah.
I'm writing some of this down. All right, you ready?
No, but but yes.
All right, all of that, whatever that is.
Yep.
Let's pull that needle right on through and pull it all together, shall we?
Yep.
All right. Are you there?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Gosh. Wow.
Wow.
I just, that felt like it was one moment. And I just like opened my eyes. I was like, that was like 15 minutes.
Oh, God, but it was 15 minutes of just amazing.
And just expansion. Wow.
Wow.
Oh, that was like in the beginning. I was showing, like we've seen a lot in less, or I've seen a lot in less several times we've done this. It's like, I think you have too. That was like little tiny, like little small scenes, and how whatever we're doing though, it's like all of a sudden it was like, and I'm like, why am I seeing all this? And it was like, because this is all tying this together. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just have to sit and watch like I'm watching a movie, and let it pass. And then it'd be like, then I would pop out and just be like, basically the universe, come back again. And it was like, oh, that was so amazing.
That was rich is the word that comes to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so, it was like a full body experience. Just, it was, and so enlightening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that felt so good.
Yes, it did.
And it was funny because in the middle of it,
mm-hmm.
I could feel the wind because it's really windy up here. I mean, they have like fire advisories and everything going on, and it's like the I could tell the wind shifted directions because the house started creaking and all the leaves started hitting the front windows where I'm in the room where I'm sitting, and I was like, "Dang, did we just do that?"
Yeah. Totally shifted directions on stuff. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, in the very beginning, it was what came to me was, that saying, it was like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
It was so much, but yet what I saw was that, well, it can be if that's the way I want to look at it, but it was like it was being poured into me. And if I just sat and allowed, it just flowed in. It wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't hard. It wasn't threatening. And it just flowed and filled. And in that moment, it was like, oh, from this perspective, my body is a tool just like everything else.
Right.
Just like time, just like a hammer, just like everything else. And it's like, I'm looking at it from within the tool going, well, how do I make this tool different? And that's not where the change comes from.
Right.
And it was just like everything at that moment simplified.
Yeah. I will say everything did simplify. That's a good word for it. Everything.
And it was like everything. Right. And it was like the pouring in that I saw like at my head, instead of being like from a picture, was like coming from all directions. And it just was bathing me from seemingly the outside, pouring in and then flowing back out. But it was almost like the, what do you call it? Where like the, what is it? The Taurus, of the earth and the body.
Yep. The Taurus.
That's what I felt like. It was like the flowing from one perspective felt like it was coming from outside of me, but from that higher perspective, it was really flowing out of me and then back into me and out of me and back into me. And just, it was like that beauty of completion. Oh,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was like the feeling of being completely fulfilled. Yeah. It was just that.
Yeah.
Complete. It was like we went to,
Wow.
it was like we were, yeah, it was almost like, well, because again, we try to think backwards and forwards in terms of like, that's a timeline thing, right? Backwards and forwards. But it was like starting at the end and going backward to see how, and see, like the mind wants to see how to unravel everything, but it's really not unraveling everything. It's actually to remember all the completion, right?
Right. Right.
It's, yeah, there's just no words for that. Okay, well, that was a fabulous, as always, right? Ah.
Oh my gosh. And we actually recorded this one.
Yeah, we did.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anybody who listens, if you like had a hard time following us, like going all over the place, just listen energetically because really there are
right
are not the words. Oh, wow.
Wow. I mean, this was just,
yeah. There are no words for this one.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels expansive. And I think it's the first time that I've felt that in that expansion, it was such that unconditional love within that expansion, instead of just being, oh, well, that feels great. It was like, it feels great on so many different levels.
Oh, yeah. On every level. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I even saw some stuff about that, you know, like the other things we talked about today. It was almost like watching a thread just go through all of that and tie it together. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess I will get that clarity. So I'm just let that flow, you know, the darkness stuff and just this all. And I'm like, okay.
Talk about checking off your to-do list.
Yeah. I feel like we're done for, I feel like I must say we're done for today, but not like talking about this call. I think I'm just, today it's like, okay, today's complete.
I know. Right. Exactly. That's exactly what I was meaning.
Oh, wow. All right. So I'm going to stop the recording so y'all can listen to us and tune in next week. I'm sure there'll be more clarity then.
Right.
That's a fabulous thing. All right.